Hi, welcome to Fertility Talks. I'm Mary Wong, founder of Alive Holistic Health Clinic, author of Pathways to Pregnancy, your fertility strategist, and I am so pleased to be here at the Canadian Fertility Show. And this is our marathon day for doing Fertility Talks. It's our fourth interview. We're here all day, so if you're here, please drop by the booth and say hello. And if you're not, and you're just watching live, or not live, just scroll down and see all the previous awesome interviews where we provide lots of great information, providing you hope, dispelling shame, and providing you advice from experts in the field of fertility. And I think that's a great segue into our conversation.
Yeah.
So Petra, I want to thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Petra is going to introduce herself because she's the, you tell us, Extraordinary Conceptions.
So I'm a coordinator with Extraordinary Conceptions. So we are an international surrogacy and egg donation agency. Myself, I am a former IVF nurse, so basically my whole career has been in fertility, and I'm so happy to be talking to you guys today about egg donation.
Yes, so today is about, or this part of it is about egg donation. Our last post, which was 153, we were talking about sperm donation and everything that goes with, and now we're going to talk about egg donation, and specifically we're talking about fresh donors. And so the very first question, and I know you're not a doctor, but you are a nurse and you've been in the field for a while.
Yeah.
So what's your thought on fresh versus frozen?
Yeah, so again, I'm just speaking from my personal opinion. This isn't a research-based discussion, I guess, but in my professional career, what I've noticed is that fresh is always better, especially when it comes to frozen eggs. The technology maybe isn't quite there yet, so when you're considering egg donation, my opinion is that fresh is always going to be better, and it will result you with more embryos. So typically when you're buying frozen eggs, you're getting a batch or a cohort of eggs. So you might be getting 2 or you might be getting 6 or so. So that doesn't leave you with a whole lot to work with sometimes. If there are any eggs lost in the thawing process or in just the creation of embryos, sometimes you lose eggs. So when you're doing a fresh egg donation, you're getting all of the eggs from that cycle. So you're typically getting about 15 to 20 or more eggs. And the price difference isn't that different for the number of eggs that you're getting. So especially if you want to have siblings that are genetically related, it's actually more, cost effective to do a fresh cycle. That way you have more chances.
Right, if you're thinking about into the future, I think that's a really great point. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
And I can't agree with you more because my personal stance is that fresh is better as well. And I just think of, we know that the egg cell is the largest cell in a woman's body, and it's highly, what's the word? There's just a lot of water content in it, so it's harder to freeze. And even with the whole new vitrification process and all that, there's still a lot of unknowns. And even though some research is saying, oh gee, it's like, I don't know, there's claims that it's like equally as good as frozen, and I'm like, I don't physically see it at the clinic because we see women that pursue both.
Yeah, exactly. And with our experience seeing this at clinics, we're not seeing as many embryos yielded at the end of the cycle, and it just, especially if you maybe need to try more than once to have embryo transfers, you're not left with that many chances. So the more embryos, the better. So I think that fresh egg donation, for many reasons, is more successful and it's better, and you're working with your own physician too. So with frozen eggs, it's coming from an egg bank, so your physician isn't really involved in the process of harvesting those eggs or freezing those eggs. They're going to be shipped to your clinic.
Right.
Whereas fresh embryo or fresh egg donation, your physician at your IVF center that you trust is going to be doing the whole cycle. So you can have that trust that you already have for your physician involved in the process of actually getting those eggs and then creating embryos on the same day that those eggs are retrieved.
And that's all really, really good information in a practical way. Now, I just want to touch upon the heartfelt part, right? Because it's difficult to surrender to the idea of using an egg donor as you go through this journey.
Yes, yes.
So what are maybe 3 top things that may help people decide if egg donation's for them?
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, definitely choosing to move forward with egg donation may be a difficult process for most people. Giving up that genetic relation on the mother's side. I think there definitely is a grieving process for some people, and I think that counseling is very, very important at that stage.
Yes.
To really speak to a therapist or a counselor who knows about fertility to help you through that grieving process. But yeah, I think that once you have moved through that, I guess you want to know what are important things to you when you're selecting an egg donor, and I think that's really what your focus needs to be on, is what, through that loss of your genetic relation, what is most important to you in finding the egg donor that you end up with.
So you know what, I'm going to actually address it from a very personal standpoint, because for those of you who've read my book, Pathways to Pregnancy, which is actually spelled backwards on this, but I write about my journey, and I at one point I did what I called the triple-pronged approach, right? So doing IVF, and then taking a break from that and actually going down the adoption route. And when we landed on the list of adoption, then it's going to be 7 to 10 years from the time of getting approved for China. And I thought, 7 to 10 years, are you crazy? So we went back to IVF, and we actually started then looking at donor, because I thought, well, you know what? If I can actually look at adoption, well, why wouldn't I look at donor? It's like really, 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 really super, super early adoption.
Yeah, I guess it is. And I guess another thing to think about is if you're doing egg donation, and if you have the option to use your partner's sperm, then you still have some of that genetic relation within the family. So you still have a little bit of a connection, and if you can carry the baby, even more so, you have that bond. So very important, I think, to consider that.
I love that, and I'm going to actually correct you and say it's not little, it's a full connection, because here's the deal, right? It's not genetically your child, however, biologically, it's 100% your child. You carry the baby to term, you nurture it, feed it. Without you, this life would not be in existence. So it's 100% your child, or your future child, or your future potential child.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, it's such a special thing that you can still carry the baby, and I mean, if you cannot, then you might need to consider surrogacy, and there's other ways of forming that bond as well during the pregnancy, even if you're not carrying the baby. So connecting with your surrogates and really being part of that process so that you can still be really involved.
Yeah. So no matter basically however you have your child, no matter what, you are the parent. Really, that's the bottom line. You are mom, you are dad, you are parent.
The moment that you decide that you're going down this journey, no matter what way you're doing it, you're that parent, like hands down. There's no question about it, because you're the love that is progressing this journey, and without you, obviously, it would never happen. So yeah.
So then now back, so we dealt with the heart.
Yeah.
And when you're open to it now, take us through how you would find your donor.
Yeah. So a lot of parents will work with an agency to find their donor. And so what agencies do is they collect a database of egg donors. So they find egg donors through various marketing tactics, of course, or women who just look for egg donation because that's something they've heard of, and we build this database of donors who are available to match. And those databases include a full profile of that egg donor. So that will include pictures, medical information, education, personality traits. They're very extensive. So once you start connecting with agencies, you're going to be able to start seeing those profiles. And our job at the agency is to help you by recommending profiles, seeing what your needs and preferences are for your egg donor and finding those egg donors that you want to work with. From there, the agency's role is to guide you through the whole process and basically manage that egg donation. So from start to finish, there is somebody there to help you through it.
So then let me ask you this. So, when we pursue something totally different and new, there's a lot of fear. So I guess one fear might be, is this true? Is this information true? Mm-hmm. Is this person lying? And do you have a way of filtering out people?
Yeah, the application process itself is not easy. It's not something you can just do in 5 minutes on your phone. So the process of actually filling out that profile, we often lose some of our egg donors just because they don't want to follow through with that application process. So we're already losing a bit there of the people who aren't really committed or truthful. Right. With regards to verifying information, it really depends on what that information is and if it is possible to verify it. So, for example, when we're talking about education, we can request for transcripts so that that it can be verified. Medical information, we always look for medical records from the physician so that we can present that to your doctor to verify and to basically say whether this is a good egg donor for you or not. Also, we're just speaking to them a lot. We're really in a lot of contact with the egg donors, so you can usually tell if somebody's not being truthful. And there's also psychological screening that we can do to make sure that the donor's not being deceitful or manipulative in any way. So we do personality assessments to make sure that none of that is happening.
So we talked about sperm donor in our last post, but so in the case of egg donation, does it hold true? Is it the same? There's no compensation? How does that go?
Yeah, so in Canada, donors cannot be compensated for their egg donation. So egg donors can only be reimbursed, similar to sperm donors. They are reimbursed for their expenses related to the donation.
Right, okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so again, really the people that want to do this, do it out of the goodness of their own heart. Yeah. Which means they'll kind of weed themselves out.
For sure. If somebody's heart is not in it, they're probably not going to go throughout that whole process. And we always ask this on their application, why do you want to be an egg donor? I would say the majority of the young women who are doing this are doing it because they knew somebody who struggled with infertility, and they really just want to help somebody and want to help somebody get that baby that they're really looking to have.
So when you say young, what are the age span of the donors typically?
A donor can be anywhere from the age of 18 to 29. And if they have had their own children already or have been an egg donor before, up to 32 years old.
Okay, so then that's actually a great question, right? So if a person's going through it, do you have an opinion on what do they call it? Proven donor, meaning they've already done it. Yeah. Versus a person that has never done donation before.
Yeah. So a proven donor means she's already gone through the egg donation process, and the agency that you're working with will have those results on record so that they can tell you whether the donation was successful or not. So that's a proven donor. When you're looking at proven donors, the good thing about it is that you know what to expect with that donor. So you already have an expectation of how many eggs she might have or how many embryos you might result with. And some of the screening has already been done, so that can be a cost-saving thing for the parents. With a first-time donor, some of those costs with screening are upfront, and you may not have a donor who meets the qualifications of your clinic. so that money can be lost. However, a lot of the clinics do repeat the screening every year or so, so it really can vary of which tests you might save on and which you don't. But yeah, with a first-time donor, you are having some risks because, as we all know, you might have an AMH test that looks great, you might look great on ultrasound, but then the results aren't what you were anticipating. So it is more of a risk. However, a lot of our egg donors and a lot of our clinics do great screening, so most of the time we are successful with first-time donors.
Okay.
It's more rare that we are not successful, especially with donors at a young age.
Right.
Their eggs should be nice and healthy, and they should have a high AMH that produces a lot. So
awesome. So let's end off on a high note here.
Okay.
And so I really want to thank you for taking the time out. And it's a very busy place, and so this is really great and highly informative. So perhaps we can have another conversation and at a future date,
Yeah,
right,
of
to
course,
fill in
I would
some of the
love
gap.
to.
Yeah, and you can always tell me what you
Sure.
want to talk about.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who are watching, if it's your first time here, this is post number 154. So there's a lot of posts and everything related to fertility. So please scroll down or go to the YouTube channel where we house all of these past interviews, and that is at Mary Wong Acupuncturist. Okay, so that's on YouTube. And otherwise, just like the page for Alive Holistic Health, and you can find us on Facebook as well as Instagram. All right, so next up, we're going to be talking to Cassandra, who overcame her own infertility to become a mom. And she is now a currently certified medical intuitive fertility coach and environmentalist. So we're going to talk to her at 3 p.m. Last one for the night. And so thank you all for being here. Wish you all luck on this journey. Well, not luck. Wish you well on this journey. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having
you.
me.
Okay, take care.